Bam, another controversial chapter. So, I'll address the most conversational piece-wise thing in this chapter first, just because like the chapter itself, not a ton happened. It was mostly just a couple of events, and then ending on a really interesting cliffhanger from obviously the sixth Zenon picture. But overall, I gotta be honest. Overall, I didn't really mind the Gaja save thing for two reasons. Now, there's two reasons I don't really mind it, and there's one reason that I was bothered by it. So, uh, I'll do it in a sandwich. So it kind of, it goes in nice, gets a little sour, and then at least ends on a good note. So, first off, I don't ever mind fake out deaths if the way that they're saved is logical inverse. It's not the exact same level, obviously, with like the Julius save, because the Julius one is foreshadowed way longer. With Mimosa being a really good healer already, and then her ultimate magic being capable of restoring life force, there was a part someone brought up to me when I was like looking at some of the conversations having about it, like the fact that when the Spade soldiers were using the Condello to absorb the mana from the peasants and commoners of their kingdom, and they're saying how like mana dwells within, I think they said like life energy or like life force, and they're pretty much absorbing that and turning it into mana. So it's like that is a degree. It's kind of like how he like Gaja was able to turn his life force into mana. What Mimosa just did is the opposite. I don't think she outright revived Gaja from the dead like what Rades did. I think that he was just on the brink of death and she was able to save him in time. Because there wasn't a confirmed from Asta or Lola Petchka or anybody there while they're like thinking like she's trying to heal him. Asta's like, hey, the Demon Destroyer sword can't do anything. They're like still like in panic mode instead of like realizing that he was dead. So I don't think he was fully dead, just kind of like about to die. But when Mimosa showing up and healing him like that, I would say I would have liked some form of like I said, it's like her healing didn't do anything like too crazy, like bringing back from the dead. It was just kind of like a super heal, so it's not too crazy. I would have liked if we saw a scene beforehand where Luck would tell Noct instead of just Noct, just being like, oh yeah, here's that girl that that you asked me to get. Just kind of like it was off screen. Like it would have made it slightly better, in my opinion. It's just one of those things that it would have given it a mild improvement. Now the thing about it that I didn't like very much was that Gaja, like the whole like using his life force and then Gaja like reminding everybody like, oh, I'm on the brink of death, like I'm just pretty much getting borrowed time right now. Like those are the things that kind of like I didn't really like it because it's different than a character being horribly wounded or a character like it seeming like they're gonna die versus like one of them where they're reminding people where they're going to die, and the whole like using their life force, like it goes out of their way to put them in a spot where it's like they should die. Like if Gaja just got really hurt and then was like suffering from the curses and stuff, and it was just like that where he was so wounded and so just beaten up that it was like he was beyond saving at that point. Like if they did something like, oh, they like if his heart was like ripped apart or something and he was using lightning to kind of just like keep his body going for a couple more seconds, and then during that fight, and then Rose spell came up and stuff. If it was something like that, I think that also would have made it a lot better. But I wasn't a fan of like the whole like using the life force and then like he gets up, he's like, oh well, this is just like a pseudo life right now. That to me is what I was like, not a huge fan on that aspect. Now, the thing about it that I did like a little bit, and this is kind of like an in-between, is Gaja's death wouldn't have really done anything for me. Not much, because like Gaja's design is cool, his magic is cool. He's a likable character. He's not like Noct, where Noct has like he's a newer character. He's got like this really good backstory. He's got a fun personality. He's got really cool interactions with other characters. The only character that I really like Gaja's interactions with is Luck. Just because you have this near emotionless soldier of lightning, and then you have Luck, who's just this high energy, wants to fight everybody lightning. I like the dynamic between the two of them. So I like that it looks like Tabata is going to keep him around and then do a little bit more with his character. Like that to me is like where that whole part of the not just the chapter but of this arc is gonna stick with me, where I'm kind of like, I don't I don't like it, but I don't really dislike that scene. I'm kind of indifferent. I will say what Tabata can really do for me is either give, like, say that Mimosa has like a X amount of times left she can do that during the day, or say that, like, or just not use Mimosa like that for like a good while. Because I'm alright with like a really OP healer save or like something like that where it's like, yeah, this character can do this. If they're there, then they logically can do it. Like if, say, another character ends up like during this whole setup, like another character dies and it's like, oh, if Mimosa was there, it could have healed him, but like Mimosa was over here, so bam, you can't have one character be in this other spot, because like now Noct is in one spot, so it's not like Noct can just like take her over to wherever he doesn't know to save another character. That could be, to me, like a really good save. Like if Tabata ends up killing like a more likable character, hypothetically, but keeps Gaja around, I'm fine with it. But the chapter itself, for the most part, was just some like interactions where you had like Noelle like being obviously embarrassed of Asta being there after she realized she was in love with him. You have Nozel being a little flustered because he doesn't really know how to talk to his sister. And one thing is, like, I saw some people like disliking that he got a little flustered, but like, do you remember when he was apologizing to Noelle like back during the Elf Resurrection arc? That's just how he is. Like, he's not a very emotionally outgoing guy, so something like that for him would have to be a little bit difficult, clearly. So, and not only that, it's happened before, so it makes sense with his character. But like the stuff between them and the stuff about like, oh, well, reality is what it is from Noct, and then Noel's like, well, we'll overrule reality. I'm not looking forward to people taking that suit too seriously, where it's like, well, Mimosa can bend reality. It's like, no, I think they're just kind of like using a sense of wording to what they're saying, not in a lot of like actual one-for-one ways. But the stuff at the end of the chapter, that's where a lot of my hype is. So I am a little bit worried, because there's a lot of characters who are still fresh, that are still up and out ready. Like, you got Fuego, you got Dorothy, you got Marileona. Realistically, unless she's like worn out from this dude, you have Patri who's around, and especially Patri, because like not only is he as powerful as he is, like, he's got his demon light, but he also should have ultimate magic now. So I would assume that Patri is going to be way more of a threat the second he shows up than the last time we saw him. And then you also have like the other characters who are a little bit wild cards, someone like Rades, someone like Charmy, where they're not going to be the same degree as like a captain showing up, but because of like the nature of their magic, and then obviously in Charmy's case she's got ultimate magic, they're going to be big monkey wrenches thrown into any situation that they arrive at. So like that to me puts a little bit of worry on the Yuno and Zenon situation, because Dante, I like Dante, but obviously Dante's situation, like, he got put in a spot, got screwed over by his own his own inability to take Magna seriously. And then you have the whole fight with Vonica, where it became more about Megicula than Vonica. So the track record of what Tabata's done in these last two fights with the Dark Triad just gets me a little worried. I'm hoping so bad that it turns out that Zenon is his favorite out of the three, and he's going to give him special treatment. I'm perfectly alright with that if it means like Zenon not getting bodied, because like one thing about Zenon is I love his magic combination out of the Dark Triad. I really like his magic set the most. Like, Bone Magic is just really cool. Like, all of their magics are really neat, but I'd say Blood and Bone are probably my favorite out of the two individually. But the fact he's got Bone and Spatial is just really sick. And then he's got the best 100% form for sure. And the fact that he's got these like big sick bone tendrils swinging around and slashing attacks around him is just visually really cool. Like, this panel of him looks super badass as he's just floating there with all of these like whip blades just shredding everything within his vicinity. So I really don't want Tabata to screw him over and to have him be bodied. Like, I get that the Dark Triad have felt a little bit like they're the assistants of the bigger devils that they serve, and they kind of are, but I really am hoping Dante isn't done until this is all part of Tabata's plan to kind of just maybe put Dante in the mud and then maybe use that to kind of like restructure his character. Who knows? Maybe my theory about him getting a ton of like smaller devils instead will work out. Regardless of which, Zenon, I'm really hoping that Zenon actually like pulls through and puts his weight on the table, and when does his thing, he's able to be like, no, I'm just gonna like tank the attack or dodge the attack or use something, play smarter. Because facts are, Dante and Vonica did not play as the smart as they should. Dante obviously, getting caught by Magna's soul chain, whereas like if he just immediately took him seriously enough to one-shot him, he wouldn't have lost that fight. And Asta Noct coming up wouldn't have mattered. Asta's, he's still in his his whole regen timer, and I guess the cooldown timer. It's not like he's regenerating. And then you have Noct, who is obviously still low enough on mana that he couldn't do anything. Like they were in a spot where if Dante just took him more seriously, then he would have been fine. Or similar to Vonica, but Vonica's would have been more like if she took out Rill immediately, then she actually would have probably been fine, because then Magicula wouldn't have had to deal with everybody getting boosted and getting that little save extra time by Rill. Because like Charlotte, like obviously like Vonica was like in 70% wasn't able to deal with Charlotte, but as soon as 100%, or even prior to that, like even before before Charlotte really got into her bag with her Queen of Briars, like if we just had Charlotte go or Vonica go after Rill, that would have saved her potentially in a really good situation. But either way, Zenon, I have high hope. I don't say high hopes. I have the hopes that you don't just die, or if he's put in a spot where he's being backed into a corner, that he just plays the portal smart guy move and just leaves. Like, he doesn't even have to like leave the whole area. If he just like went down to where Morris is and was like, hey man, we got a problem. Maybe he could logically, assuming that Vonica is still alive, he could logically just like port over to Dante, grab Dante, port over to Vonica, grab Vonica, and go down to Morris and like tell them to figure out a new strategy or like reconfigure everything to help them. Because like the thing is, realistically, if Tabata doesn't have, like if this isn't all part of Tabata's scheme, like just completely demolishing the Dark Triad as fast as they've been, then they're gonna defeat the Spade within the first wave. Like the first gate opening, they're gonna defeat. I don't think they are. I fully believe that there's gonna be another gate open soon, or Zenon might be the like the whole tone shifter in what he does, or Morris. I'm fine with either of these things. Like if we can get to something like that and things can kind of get hectic again, because like logically speaking, the characters, it's not like the characters are like so worn down that like if another gate opens they're screwed, because there's a lot of big characters like I mentioned that are still fully capable. But I'd say like, assuming Merleona is fine in her long fight with this big hulking monster. But he also, like I said, Dorothy, Fuego, Patri. I think Patri by itself himself is like a big factor just by speed. In fact, he's got demon magic, he's got ultimate magic, he probably has true magic on top of all that. But yeah. Interesting chapter. I didn't mind the Gaja stuff as probably nearly as much as a lot of other people. Like this is shonen. Like not a lot of characters die very often, at least protagonists. And I've mentioned before, I've read series where like characters can die very easily, but I don't really like it when a character is killed off and I don't have any emotional attachment to them, because it just feels like it's for me a waste of like a good scene. Like when Julius had his fake out death, at least that was something that like really hit, and I'm hoping that once we get like a good permanent character kill in Black Clover, like an actual like big important, like if Yami or William or say like a Nozel or any of those guys died, it would be those would be impactful, because like especially like someone like Nozel, after we figured out like his backstory and stuff, like something like that where there's a much more emotional investment. But with Gacha there wasn't really any of that. It was more of just like his character's cool, you like him for what he is. But like I like Rades. I think Rades is really cool. I think anybody who's stuck around in my reviews and my channel and stuff knows that I'm a fan of Rades as character. But if Rades died, like I wouldn't really like. I'd be more upset that a character I really died versus like a character that I was emotionally invested in and had a lot of stake into. This is just kind of like the gap when you kind of look at like Gaja versus someone like Nozel or Yami. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but from the like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. Other than that, appreciate everybody's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.